They say blood is thicker than water, but I learned the hard way that greed can break even the closest bonds. My name is Emma Rose, and this is the story of how my own sister took everything from me and how a stranger changed my life forever. I was born and raised on the dry plains of Wyoming, where the wind always blew and the sun shined hot and strong. Our family owned a ranch, a big one that stretched out wide in every direction. We had cattle grazing the fields, horses running free, barns filled with hay, and open skies stretching far beyond the eye could see. It was a peaceful place, full of hard work and simple joys. My daddy, James Rose, built it from scratch with his bare hands and a strong will. He started with almost nothing, just a small patch of land and a few animals. But he worked hard every single day, never complaining, and he made sure we never went to bed hungry. He always put food on the table, and he always made sure we felt safe. There were just 3 of us living on that ranch: Daddy, my older sister Clara, and me. It was a small family, but for a long time, it felt like enough. Clara was always the pretty one, and everyone said so. She had blonde curls that bounced when she walked, green eyes that sparkled like sunlight on water, and a smile that could charm a snake or just about anyone else. People in town adored her. She was sweet to others, always polite and smiling, but behind closed doors, she had a way of twisting things around to get what she wanted. She knew how to lie with a soft voice and cry fake tears that Daddy always believed. Daddy never noticed the truth. Maybe he didn't want to see it. Maybe it hurt too much. I was the quiet one. I had dark hair that got tangled in the wind, the kind of wind that never seemed to stop blowing across the open plains. My cheeks were always sunburned from working outside all day under the hot sun, and my boots were always full of dust from walking the fields over and over. I didn't care about dresses or dances or fancy things like other girls did, and I didn't care about what the town folks thought of me either. I cared about the ranch, the animals that depended on us, and doing what was right, even when no one was watching. I cared about keeping Daddy proud, even if he didn't say it out loud, even if he never said much at all. I could feel it in the way he nodded at me after a hard day's work, and that was enough. When Mama died, Clara left for the city. She said small-town life wasn't for her, that she needed more than dusty roads and quiet nights. She packed her bags, kissed Daddy on the cheek, and was gone before the sun came up. I stayed. I stayed because this was home. I helped Daddy fix fences when they broke, rode the horses at dawn while the sky was still pink, and counted the stars at night when the world went quiet. We got by just fine, just the 2 of us, leaning on each other and holding on. Then one hot summer day, Daddy fell off his horse. It happened fast. One moment he was riding strong, and the next he was on the ground, not moving. His back broke bad, real bad, and within 2 months, he was gone. The house felt empty without him, too quiet, too still. The day of his funeral, Clara returned. She showed up dressed in black, like she'd been mourning the whole time, even though she hadn't called in years. She hugged me tight with tears in her eyes, tears that looked real but didn't feel real. I stood still in her arms, not knowing what to say, but something didn't feel right. Not at all. After the service, the lawyer came. He was an older man with a leather briefcase and tired eyes. We sat in Daddy's office where everything still looked the same. His boots were still by the door, just where he always left them. His smell still hung in the air: leather, hay, and aftershave. It felt like he was just in the room a minute ago. "I'm here to read Mr. James Rose's last will and testament," the lawyer said, opening a folder and looking over the papers. I held my breath. My hands were clenched in my lap. I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect this. "To my daughter Clara Rose," he began. "What?" "To my daughter Clara Rose, I leave the entire estate, land, cattle, house, and all assets." I blinked. My ears rang. The room seemed to spin, and for a moment, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. That's a mistake," I said, my voice shaking. My hands were trembling in my lap, and I could hardly believe what I had just heard. I was here. I took care of him. I was the one who stayed. The lawyer adjusted his glasses slowly, looking at me with tired eyes. "I'm sorry, Miss Emma. This is the latest will, signed and witnessed 3 weeks before he passed." He didn't look cruel, just matter of fact, like he'd done this 100 times before. But his words cut deep. Clara smirked. Just a small, satisfied curve of her lips, but I saw it. She didn't even try to hide it. That look said everything. I stood up so fast my chair fell back with a loud crash. "You changed it," I snapped, my voice loud with anger and hurt. "You made him do this. He wasn't in his right mind." My heart was racing so fast I could hardly breathe. Clara crossed her legs slowly, acting like nothing in the world could touch her. "Don't be dramatic, Em," she said with a shrug. Daddy knew what he was doing. Her voice was cold and smooth, like she'd practiced saying it. I stormed out, heart pounding in my chest, fists clenched tight by my sides. My boots hit the floor hard with every step. I didn't look back. I moved into a trailer just down the road, not too far from the ranch. It was old, with rust along the edges and creaky steps, but it had a bed to sleep in, a stove to cook on, and just enough warmth to keep me from freezing at night. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I took work at the diner in town. I poured coffee, cleaned tables, and smiled when it hurt. Tips weren't much, but I got by. Just enough to pay for gas and groceries. Folks gave me pity looks I didn't ask for. "Poor Emma," they'd whisper behind my back. "Worked that land her whole life, and now it's gone." I heard them. I just kept going. Clara stayed at the ranch. She hired men to do the work Daddy used to do. She didn't ride the horses. She didn't even know their names. She treated the land like it was just property, not the place where we grew up, not the home we loved. Sometimes I'd see her drive by in Daddy's old truck, sunglasses on, one hand out the window like she owned the world, like she'd won something. I tried to let it go. I tried to move on. I told myself it was over. Until the stranger knocked. It was late one evening, just after sundown. The sky outside had turned a deep orange fading into blue, and the crickets had started singing in the tall grass. I was drinking weak coffee, the kind that barely warmed your bones, and reading an old Western novel with pages yellowed from age when I heard it. 3 knocks on the trailer door. Firm, steady, and unexpected. I opened it slowly, the door creaking on its rusty hinges. There he stood, tall, dusty boots planted firm on the ground, a long coat brushing against his legs, and a hat pulled low over his eyes. His face was weathered, marked by lines that told of a hard life, like he'd seen 1,000 storms and lived through every one of them. "Miss Emma Rose?" he asked, voice deep as a canyon, smooth but heavy, like it carried weight. "Yes?" I answered, unsure but curious. He took off his hat with a respectful nod. "My name's Luke Harper. I knew your father." The way he said it was calm but serious, like it mattered. I frowned. From where? My mind ran through names and faces, but I couldn't place him. He stepped in gently, like he didn't want to bring the dust from his boots into my small space, and handed me a folded letter. The paper was old and soft from being held too many times. The handwriting on it was familiar. So familiar it made my chest ache. It was Daddy's. "Emma, if you're reading this, it means things didn't go as planned. I've made mistakes, and I fear Clara may take advantage when I'm gone. I've hidden the real will, your rightful share of the ranch, somewhere safe. Trust Luke Harper. He's an old friend. Find the truth, my sweet girl. Don't give up. Love always, Daddy." My hands shook. Tears spilled before I could stop them. The words on the page blurred as I tried to hold back the sobs rising in my chest. Luke nodded. "He gave me that letter months ago. Said if anything happened, I was to come find you." "Why didn't you come sooner?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I was stuck down in Texas. Couldn't get away, but I'm here now." Hope stirred inside me like a fire rekindled. Small but growing stronger. We made a plan. That night, under a full moon, Luke and I rode up to the ranch. Everything looked the same. Porch light flickering in the breeze, wind rustling the barn doors like they were whispering secrets. Clara wasn't home. She'd gone to a gala in town, showing off Daddy's money, wearing dresses she never could have bought before. We searched his study first, checking drawers and shelves. Then the barn, behind haystacks and in old trunks. Then the attic, where dust coated everything like a memory frozen in time. Nothing. Hours passed. Then I remembered the old piano in the parlor. Daddy never played it, not once, but he always kept it tuned like it mattered. I lifted the lid. A small key lay on the strings, glinting in the moonlight. Luke and I exchanged a look. Out back, there was an old storm shelter. Daddy used it during tornado season. I hadn't stepped down there in years, not since I was a little girl. We used the key. Inside, under a loose stone, was a box wrapped in oilskin, protected from time and weather. Inside the box was the real will. It was clear as day. To my daughter Emma Rose, who stood by me through thick and thin, I leave the Rose Ranch and all its land, animals, and earnings. To my daughter Clara, I leave the city savings account and my blessing. Luke smiled. We got her. The next morning, I marched into the county clerk's office with Luke and the will tucked safely in my hand. Clara was already there, buying a deed for more land, looking proud and polished in her heels and pearls. When she saw the paper in my hand, her face went pale. The color drained right out of her cheeks. You? How? I guess Daddy was smarter than you thought, I said calmly, meeting her eyes without flinching. She tried to fight it, hired lawyers, called me a liar in front of everyone. But the will was dated, signed, and witnessed by a man still alive and living in Montana. There was no denying it. 3 weeks later, the court ruled in my favor. The ranch was mine again. I didn't kick Clara out. I could have, and maybe part of me wanted to, but I didn't. I let her take what was hers. Daddy's city savings, a small portion he'd set aside for her. It wasn't much compared to the ranch, but it was what he wanted her to have. She left in silence, never looking back. No goodbye, no apology, just the sound of her heels clicking away and the door shutting behind her. Luke stayed a while. He didn't have to, but he did. He helped me fix fences that had fallen in the wind, mend barns that had started to sag with time, and feed the horses every morning before the sun was even up. His presence made the ranch feel less lonely. We talked late into the nights, sitting on the porch or beside the fire. He told me stories of my daddy, how he saved Luke's life during a cattle drive out west, how they shared coffee by campfires, and how he always talked about his Emma, strong as steel. Hearing that made something warm settle in my chest. One evening, while we watched the sun dip below the hills and paint the sky in orange and gold, Luke looked at me and said, "Your daddy was right. You've got the kind of fire this land needs." His voice was steady and full of respect. I smiled, feeling proud and thankful. Thanks to you. He tipped his hat just a little with that quiet cowboy charm. I just delivered the truth. You did the rest. Would you like a final paragraph to wrap the story? Now the ranch thrives again. It's alive with the sound of hooves, the rustling of grass, and the soft calls of cattle in the distance. The fences are strong, the barns are full, and the land breathes easy once more. I ride every morning, just like before. I saddle up before the sun rises, feel the cool morning air on my face, and watch the light spill over the hills. The sky is just as wide, open, and endless like it always was, and the earth is just as strong beneath me, holding me steady with every step my horse takes. Sometimes I think about Clara, about her smile, her charm, and the choices she made. I wonder where she is now, maybe in some tall city building, maybe walking busy streets, maybe starting fresh. Maybe she found peace. Maybe she learned from everything that happened. Maybe she realized money isn't everything. I don't know, and I may never know, but I don't carry hate anymore. I did for a while. It burned in me like a wildfire, angry and unfair. But over time, I let it go. Because carrying hate only steals your joy. It makes you bitter and tired. And I didn't want to live like that. Not on this land, not in this life. Because in the end, the land came back to the one who loved it. The one who fed the animals, who repaired every broken gate, who rode through rain and wind to keep it alive. The one who stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. The land knew where it belonged, and it returned home, to me. And I know Daddy's watching from above, proud as ever. I feel it in my heart, in the sun that warms my skin, in the wind that whistles through the trees, in the quiet strength that guides me every day. He sees the ranch standing strong. He sees me riding with my head held high, and I believe deep down that he's smiling. I lost everything, then gained it all back, not through revenge, but through truth and courage, and the help of a stranger who turned out to be a blessing in disguise.